Butter. Simple, creamy, delicious. It melts on bread, transforms baked goods, and gives flavor to foods around the world. For thousands of years, butter has been more than just food. It has been a symbol of wealth, survival, culture, and comfort. But have you ever stopped and asked, how did butter happen? Who first discovered it? Why did humans start making it? And how did a simple accident become one of the greatest foods in human history? Tonight, we travel back thousands of years into deserts, grasslands, ancient villages, and medieval kingdoms to uncover the incredible story of butter. To understand butter, we first need to go back to the beginning of dairy itself. Around 6,500 BCE, more than 8,000 years ago, humans began domesticating animals like cows, sheep, and goats. This changed everything. For the first time in history, humans had a renewable source of food: milk. But there was one problem. Most adults back then were lactose intolerant. Drinking raw milk could make people sick. So, ancient humans had to find another way to use milk, and according to archaeological discoveries, they did. Scientists led by biogeochemist Richard Evershed from the University of Bristol discovered traces of milk fats on ancient pottery found in northwest Turkey. These weren't signs of fresh milk drinking. Instead, evidence suggested people were turning milk into foods like cheese yogurt and butter foods that were easier to digest and could last longer. This discovery may have helped human civilization survive because dairy products provided nutrition all year long. And among all these inventions, butter would become one of the most important. Most historians believe butter was discovered completely by accident. Imagine this. Thousands of years ago, ancient nomads traveled long distances with their animals. To carry milk, they used sacks made from animal skin. These bags were tied to horses, donkeys, or camels as people journeyed across rough terrain. Now think about what happened during those long trips. The milk was constantly shaken, sloshing, moving, heating under the sun, cooling at night, hour after hour. Eventually, something magical happened. The cream inside the milk began separating. Tiny fat particles clumped together. And suddenly, butter was born. Without chemistry labs, without recipes, without machines. Ancient travelers accidentally invented one of the greatest foods on Earth. Can you imagine discovering butter for the very first time? One day you have milk. The next day, you have this rich, creamy, solid food that tastes incredible and lasts longer. That discovery must have felt revolutionary. Butter quickly spread across ancient civilizations. One of the earliest visual records of butter making comes from ancient Mesopotamia. A Sumerian tablet dating back to around 2500 BCE shows people milking cows and processing dairy products. This ancient artwork proves butter making was already an established technology thousands of years ago. And butter wasn't just food, it became a trade item, a cooking ingredient, a medicine, and even a religious offering. In some cultures, butter symbolized prosperity and abundance. In others, it represented purity. Ancient people also learned that adding salt helped preserve butter longer, especially during travel. This made butter even more valuable. Because before refrigeration existed, keeping food from spoiling was a matter of survival. So what exactly is butter? Scientifically, butter is made by churning cream until the fat separates from the liquid. Milk contains microscopic fat globules suspended in water. These tiny fat droplets are protected by membranes made of proteins and phospholipids. When cream is shaken or churned, those membranes break apart. The fat joins together into larger masses. That solid mass becomes butter. And the leftover liquid? That's buttermilk. Butter is basically concentrated milk fat. Commercial butter today is usually around 80% butter fat, 15% water, and small amounts of proteins and minerals. At room temperature, butter becomes soft and spreadable. When chilled, it hardens, and around 32 to 35 degrees Celsius, butter melts into liquid gold. That melting quality is exactly why butter became essential in cooking. It carries flavor beautifully, it browns food, and it creates textures that are difficult to replace. By the Middle Ages, butter had become deeply connected to European life, especially in Northern Europe. Cold climates made dairy farming easier, and butter became a major source of calories. But strangely enough, the upper classes often considered butter peasant food. Olive oil was seen as more sophisticated in Southern Europe. Still, even the wealthy secretly enjoyed butter, and eventually butter became so popular that it created conflict with the Catholic Church. During Lent, eating animal products, including butter, was forbidden. But many Europeans loved butter too much to give it up, so the church offered a solution. People could pay a fee for permission to eat butter during Lent. Yes, people literally paid the church to keep eating butter. One famous example still exists today in France. The Tower of Rouen Cathedral became known as the Butter Tower because it was funded partly by money collected from butter permissions. That's how powerful butter had become. A food so beloved it helped build cathedrals. Different cultures created their own unique forms of butter. In India, clarified butter known as ghee became essential in cooking and religious ceremonies. Ghee is made by heating butter and removing water and milk solids, leaving pure butterfat behind. In Tibet and Himalayan regions, yak butter became a major food source. Butter tea helped people survive freezing mountain climates. In Africa and the Middle East, butter was often fermented or heavily salted for preservation. Every civilization adapted butter to fit its environment. And over time, butter became universal, a food shared by humanity across continents and cultures. Today, butter is produced on an industrial scale. In 2022 alone, the world produced around 6 million tons of butter from cow's milk. The United States accounted for about 13% of global production. Modern butter factories use advanced machines to separate cream, churn it rapidly, and control texture and flavor. Some manufacturers add natural coloring like annatto or carotene to give butter a richer yellow appearance. Others add extra flavor compounds to enhance the buttery taste. But despite modern technology, the basic process hasn't changed much from ancient times. Agitate cream, separate the fat, create butter. A process discovered accidentally thousands of years ago still feeds billions today. Butter is more than just food. It is a human story. A story of survival, innovation, migration, and discovery. From ancient nomads crossing dusty plains, to medieval cathedrals, to modern kitchens around the world. Butter has traveled through history beside humanity itself. And perhaps the most amazing part? One of the world's greatest foods may have started as a simple accident. Inside a leather sack, bouncing on the side of a traveling animal thousands of years ago, that tiny accident changed human history forever. So, next time you spread butter on toast, remember, you're tasting thousands of years of human civilization. If you enjoyed this episode of How Did That Happen? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating stories behind the everyday things we often take for granted. And tell us in the comments, what food should we explore next? Thanks for watching.